If you play sports or workout, a good warm-up should help increase your performance, decrease your risk of injury, and maybe help reduce your post-exercise soreness. Now the problem is, according to clinical trials, most of the ways you get shown don't work and can even be detrimental. Now, as an example, in the clinical trials, stretching actually decreased performance and didn't reduce the number of injuries. Now they also found that if you stretch too far, it actually increases your risk. Now another issue is that too many warm-up routines you see are generic rather than concentrating on specific needs of your sports or exercise. Now you've probably seen articles and videos like 5 best warm-up exercises. Now obviously different sports and workouts have different physical requirements. Now I want you to be safe and get the best possible results, so what I'm going to do is go over your basic warm-up options, letting you know what each does. Now that'll be the facts, not the marketing BS. Then help you work out the best warm-up to suit your needs. Now, as a quick bit of housekeeping, this is general information only to be discussed with a professional familiar with your specific needs, and to keep this video short and to the point, I'll just give you the facts and have all the details and references in an article linked in the description. First, let's look at the basics of what we try and do with a warm-up. Now look at injury prevention first. The basic idea is that if your muscles are tight, you run the risk of straining or tearing them, and if you lengthen them, they won't tear. Now that's a good idea, but what they found in the trials was the benefits of lengthening your muscles were negated by stretching, allowing the joints to move more than normal. And it's a very important lesson here. Now there are many ways to lengthen your muscles during a warm-up, but whatever way you use, the idea is that stretching to normal movements is good, but any more can actually cause injuries. Now the next thing we'll look at is increasing performance. Now you read claims about things such as increasing blood flow and that sort of thing, but the main thing is results. And clinical trials actually tell us which ones do increase performance and which ones don't. Now that said, let's have a look at your options and what the science says about each. Now, I think we're all familiar with conventional massage, where a therapist uses manual techniques such as rubbing, pressure and kneading. Now these will vary depending on the skills of the therapist and the needs of the client, but what the trials tell us is that massage like this will increase your flexibility, but has no effect on strength, endurance or fatigue. Now the next one we'll look at is vibration massage. Now these are not to be confused with massage guns or percussion massages, which I'll discuss later. Now vibration massages sit on the surface and send in vibrations like the way ultrasound works. Now ultrasound is just vibrations at a higher frequency. Now, according to the scientific trials, these will increase your flexibility, enhance your strength and increase the time taken for your muscles to fatigue. Now as a bonus, they'll also decrease your post-exercise soreness. Now foam rollers are devices to enable users to apply pressure that imitates the techniques that professional therapists would use. Now as you realise, they're heavily advertised and promoted. Now with so many trials having been done, marketers will tell you about the old one that showed an improvement. Now, they won't tell you though about all the ones that showed nothing, or that the improvements were very small and short-lived. Now the reality is that clinical trials have shown that foam rollers give no improvement in performance. Now they do increase your flexibility, but that only lasts less than 10 minutes. In other words, you spend 10 to 15 minutes foam rolling only to have the increase in flexibility disappear by the time you can compete. Now I think we're all aware of conventional stretching. That's where muscles are placed under gentle tension, causing them to lengthen. Now, as I said before, lengthening muscles up to a point is a very good thing, but too far and you run the risk of excessive joint movement. Now if you're going to use stretching as part of your warm-up, keep that limitation in mind and only stretch to the amount of movement that you'll be using. Now stretching to increase flexibility can be a very good thing, but just don't do it before you're going to compete. Now the other issue is stretching. It's been shown to decrease performance. Now assume this would be when the muscle is longer than normal, it can't contract as strongly, which again means that if you do stretching, don't overdo it. Now if you do exercise or movements, this is called dynamic warm-ups, and it's the one thing that scientists have found increases both flexibility and strength. Now I found one trial where dynamic warm-up actually increased the height an athlete could jump by 2 inches or 5 centimetres. Now the scientists recommend that the best dynamic warm-ups are those that closely mimic the actual movements or activities of your sport. Now when you think about it, this ticks all the boxes. It'll warm up your muscles to get the blood pumping and stimulate your nervous system, and it will only stretch your muscles and joints as much as needed. Now the last option I'll discuss is percussion massage or massage guns. Now what these are is basically vibration massages that have been modified to drive their heads into the muscles like a jackhammer. Now, advocates say that this increases penetration and adds the benefits of conventional massage, but the reality is that it's a marketing gimmick. Now the modifications add little or no benefits while decreasing the effective amount of therapeutic vibrations and increasing the risks. Now, as far as science goes, the claims made about massage guns or percussion massages are misleading to the point of being deliberately deceptive. Now, even though they've modified their machines to deliver far less vibrations, they still claim all those vibration benefits. So, don't get sucked in with that one. Now we've seen what each option can and can't do, let's put together an effective warm-up for you. Now we'll look at both general considerations plus how these can be modified to suit your particular sports or activity. Now starting with exercise and stretching first, science shows us that it's the dynamic warm-ups that give excellent results. Now rather than a generic approach, the best alternatives are those that mimic as closely as possible to what you'll be doing. So let's look at some examples. Now we'll start with a competitive weightlifter. Now they have a very well practiced set of joint movements and muscle contractions, so the best exercise to warm up the muscles and elongate the joint tissues to the movements they'll need would be doing the actual lifts. Now the weightlifter would start with lighter weights working up. Now the goal would be to warm up but not cause fatigue. Now the second example is cycling. Now, cycling involves a limited set of muscles and joint movements, so the best way to mimic these would be by cycling. Now the type of warm-up would also be influenced by the type of competition. Now for example, if you're doing a long distance road race, you wouldn't be stressing your muscles and joints greatly at the start and would need to conserve energy. Therefore, you probably only need a minimum warm-up. On the other hand, if you were doing sprint races, you'd use a much more thorough warm-up. Now the last example is a footballer. Now it could be any code. Now, when you play football, you use a variety of possible movements that may not even be predictable. Now, therefore, ideally you need a set of exercises that involve all the possible joint movements. Now, the goal here would be to put all your joints and muscles through their full movements without causing undue fatigue. Now, the proper dynamic warm-up, there should be little need for conventional stretching, but if you do use it, just limit it to the amount of movements that you'll be using. Now, let's look at other things that can be done as part of a warm-up. Now, we've seen that conventional massages increase flexibility but don't help performance. Now, if you're in a sports club that provides conventional massage, no doubt they'll feel good and have some benefit. However, you need to weigh up whether, say, a dynamic warm-up will be a better use of limited time. Now, if you've got a proper vibration massager, the scientific results from these were all positive. They increase flexibility and strength while reducing the amount of fatigue, plus you'll have less post-exercise soreness. Now, I'll link articles in the description on how to choose and use a vibration massager, but the ideal option would be to use a professional strength machine such as our Ultimate Quad Head massager. Now, these apply copious amounts of professional standard therapeutic vibrations over an area that will cover most muscles. Now, you simply apply the vibration to each muscle or muscle group for 30 to 60 seconds. Now, clinical trials show that foam rollers give no increase in performance and an increase in flexibility that lasts less than 10 minutes. Now, despite the widespread marketing, they appear to have very little benefits for warm-ups. Now, you'll also see a lot of marketing for massage guns, but as discussed, marketers have taken highly beneficial vibration massages and modified them as a marketing gimmick. Now, these modifications give no proven extra benefits while decreasing the amount of therapeutic vibrations they deliver and increasing their risks. Now, that should help you put together a really good warm-up. But if you play sports or workout, you'll need to look at having a good strategy to help reduce post-exercise soreness and speed recovery, and eliminate trigger points, which are those tender lumps in your muscles that decrease performance and increase your risk of injury. Now, I'll pop links to some info about that in the description. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate, and thanks very much for watching. It has been most appreciated.